Hey everyone, it's Miss Linder, and we're going to do the notes only for lesson 23. Write an equation of a line given the slope and a point. Okay, so on that first little screen, you have some room, and I want you to write down the following. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and write down these three things underneath the title. Okay, so the three things, we're going to follow those three instructions. For number one, they tell us that the slope is 3, so you're going to go ahead and write down that m is equal to 3, and it passes through the point of -2, 5. Now you know that this is in the ordered pair, so that's the x and y. So we're going to state that x is -2, and we're going to state that y is 5. And now all we have to do is take those variables and plug it into the equation of y equals mx plus b. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So my 5 is now the y, m is 3, x is -2, and we do not know b because we're solving for b. So I'm going to go ahead and solve. That gives me 5 is equal to a -6 plus b. I'm solving for b, which means I need to get b alone. So I'm going to add a +6 to both sides, and that gives me 11 is equal to b. So we've now gone ahead and found b. So that means that we can go ahead and write the equation of the line. So our answer would be y equals, we know that they gave us slope, which is 3x, and our b's location will be at plus 11. Okay? All right, let's do number 2. Okay, number 2, we're going to write down that our m is -2, our x is -1, and our y is -6. We're going to fill in the equation y equals mx plus b. So our y is -6, m is a -2, x is a -1, and plus b because we're solving for b. So a negative and a negative gives me a positive. And I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to add a -2 to both sides. So that gives me a -8 is equal to b. And now my final step is to write the new equation. So the new equation would be y equals, they gave me the slope, -2x, and I found the b, subtract 8. So there's your new equation. All right, I want you to go ahead and try number 3 and number 4 on your own. 3 and 4 on your own. Okay, so I went ahead and stated what my variables were, and I plugged them into the equation. So I have a -3. What's a -1/2 of 6? So a negative, and a positive gives me a negative, and half of 6 is 3. I added 3 to both sides. So 0 was equal to b. So that means my equation would be y equals -1/2 x. And that's it. You do not need to add 0 because we know 0 is not necessary for the equation. Okay, only when we go to graph it. All right, let's look at number 4. All right, I went ahead and stated the variables, and I've plugged in my variables. So I'm going to say, what is 1/2 of 5? Well, that's 2.5, and it's also negative. And I'm going to take a -2.5. I'm going to add 2.5 to both sides. So that gives me 10.5 is equal to b. All right. So my equation would be y equals -1/2. Remember, we want slope or a whole number for these. We want a fraction or a whole number for the slope. And we have a decimal for our b, which is totally fine. So 10.5. 5. All right, go ahead and try number 5, 6, and 7 on your own. 5, 6, and 7 on your own. All right, I've gone ahead and plugged in my variables, and I hope you noticed that this was already in the normal ordered pair that we tend to see without having to solve. But I wanted you to see that that actually comes out correctly. So 6 times 0 would give you 0, so 8 would equal b. So your equation would be y equals 6x plus 8. And you really didn't need to do much math because it was already in that y-intercept form. All right, number 6, plugged it in, so I have a negative 1/4 times a negative 4 over 1. So that gives me a positive 1 plus b. I take 1 from the other side, add a negative 1 to both sides, so that gave me 6 was equal to b. Curve that 6 there. So your answer should have been y equals negative 1/4 x plus 6. All right, and number 7. Number 7, I have negative 15 is equal to 9/4 of 20 plus b. So I'm going to cross reduce my 4 and 20, giving me 5 and a 1. So that gives me a negative 15 is equal to 45 plus b. I'm going to add a negative 45 to both sides. So they gave me a negative 60 is equal to b. So the final answer would be y is equal to 9/4 x minus 60. Do not be afraid of fractions. Do not be afraid of fractions, okay? Especially when they can cross reduce. All right, for the next two, they want us to write the equation of the line and graph. They tell us that the slope is negative 3 and it passes through negative 4, 2. Do not use that to graph. You need to solve and write that equation first. So we have to do that equation process again. So we have our m is equal to negative 3, our x is negative 4, y is 2. So 2 is equal to a negative 4 times a negative 3 plus the b, gives me 12 plus b. Take the negative 12 and add it to both sides. Gives me a negative 10 is equal to b. So my new equation, and you can write it down underneath, would be y is equal to negative 3x minus 10. Now remember, in class we talked about how you have the option of making these lines the increments that best fits the equation or best fits the information. So make sure that you circle and state that you're going by twos so that your person grading your work will be able to understand. So here I'm going to go by twos, so I have a negative 10. So I'm going to go down on the y-axis 5 place values, because 2 times a negative 10. So there I am, negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10. And I'm going to have the slope of a negative 1 or 3 over 1, which means I have to go backwards. So I'm going over, remember that 3 over 1, I'm going by twos. So that means I need to go half of that little spot. So I'm going to go over 1 and up 2, so it should be in that center, over 1 and up 2. So now I have my 3 dots and I can graph that line. Okay, I want you to go ahead and try number 9 on your own. Make sure that you do the equation first and then you're going to graph it. All right, so I went ahead and started the problem where I'm plugging in my variables, and I noticed that I have 3 over 2. Well, I also know that b can be a decimal or it can be a whole number. So I'm going to take that 3/2 and I'm going to make that into a decimal. So that now is going to be 1.5. So I'm going to add a negative 1.5 to both sides. So that's going to give me negative 0.5 is equal to b. So my equation would be y is equal to 1/2 x subtract 0.5 or 0.5. All right, so don't forget I can make these lines any which way I want as long as it fits the line. It's the best for that option. So I'm going to say that I'm going by 0.5. Okay, I put a circle or a star and I'm saying that I'm going by 0.5. So my first dot would be right there, so that's 0.5 and it's a negative. And now I'm going to run 2 whole sections, so that means I need to go over by 4, and I'm going to rise up 1 whole. So my next dot would be right there, and I notice I can't go back any further, so I'm going to go backwards. 0.5, 1 whole, 1.5, 2, half, and a whole. So there are my 3 dots, and it's a positive line because I went by 0.5s. Now, if you didn't go by 0.5, then you should be in the half mark, and yours might look a little different. However, if we were to do them mathematically with equivalent fractions and numbers, we would have the same line. Okay, this has been lesson 23. And make sure that if you have any problems with getting the notes that you email me, and I will see you tomorrow to work on the assignment. Thanks a lot and have a great evening.